2017.
And be appointed to Solomon Ambets and Robert Texera.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I attended their meeting this past week, and both men were very...
Let's have it. Next item is to reappoint the Inspector of Animals for Jessica Gao, term ending April 30th, 2017.
So moved. Do I have to say it?
No, that's fine.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Next are to vote on recommendation on town meeting articles.
Mr. Chairman, could I just interject?
Yep.
The members of the board have a draft set of recommendations and explanations, and I do apologize, I inadvertently omitted Article 3, which should also be included for the board's consideration, which has to do with the draining of swimming pools, and would give it a non-criminal disposition as per town council. I just inadvertently left it off the list. My apologies.
I might need
So
to take
first-
a minute to find my,
And that
I don't
would
remember
be
seeing
something
that.
We can share.
that we just would approve as printed, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Recommended
that-
as printed.
A recommendation would be to approve as printed.
Okay.
Should be the next to the last thing in your selectmen's packet,
Yep.
the recommendations.
Are we ready?
And so the idea is tonight to vote the recommendations, and then Mr. Suso and I would work on the wording with whatever advice you give us tonight. Otherwise, we would move forward on just coming up with explanations as to why the recommendation is.
Okay.
So, is everyone okay with the Article 3 to recommend approve as printed?
Yeah.
So moved. Or second, which would you prefer?
Move.
I move that
My second.
we
Motion
move
and second?
as printed.
Further discussion on Article 3? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Article 4 is an article concerning the Design Review Committee.
This was the language change, as I
Right.
recall, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I move Article 4 as printed.
Second?
Okay, the motion is that the recommendation be as approved as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And then Article 5 is the Design Review Committee supplemental. Again, this is a language
Yes, exactly.
alteration.
I move that we recommend Article 5 as printed.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Article 6, the Falmouth Historic Districts, and this does expand some of their authority into some fairly specific things. And I did want us to have a little bit of a chance to discuss as to how specifically we want to get into those recommendations for the historic district.
So you'd be looking to wait on this so that we could have further discussion?
No, this is an appropriate time for us to have discussion. Do we want
okay,
this discussion to be
Yeah.
as printed? Do we want an indefinite postponement? Do we have a recommendation of some change in language?
What are the other non-traditional areas? Because this can be very challenging for homeowners. One of them, paint colors seems to be a pretty expected scope of review in a lot of communities, so that one I understand. I'm just not sure what other similar non-traditional areas would be.
Trying to remember exactly what it was. I need to get the language of this.
and, oh, I see. And it's-
I have an element here, terraces, walks, walkways, driveways, sidewalks, and similar structures would all be reviewed. So all pedestrian ways, it would appear, terraces, walks, driveways. those will be added to the list. They are not currently reviewed, to the best of my knowledge.
So one of the things that is coming into play now is a new way of thinking, which is heritage landscape type planning, where you don't just look at the building, you look at the neighborhood and all the elements of it, because maybe it's in reaction to some of the development we've had in West Falmouth, where you've been having developers moving buildings, building condos, and even though they're using crown moldings on the condos, it certainly is a big change to the character of the neighborhood, and a person who would go away from town for a few years and come back and drive through it would be like, this isn't what I'm used to.
What happened?
So this gives them more latitude to maintain that character.
This is limited to the historic districts, though. Is
Right.
that correct?
Yep.
So,
And
Well-
and possibly historic structures that are
Yes.
designated.
Right.
right. Well, I don't think there's any question about the importance that we place on keeping the historic character of our town. And I think, the areas that they're suggesting that we include are reasonable ones. I think Doug has pointed out an example of just a case in point, right? So I guess I'm going to move that we recommend this as printed.
Second?
Motion is second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. We'll take care of that.
Making my own job harder. But
Right.
Article 7 is dealing with the interest on unpaid balance of sewer betterment assessments. And this is accepting the provisions of Chapter 83, Section 15C.
I move that we recommend approval as printed.
Second?
I don't think we have any choice.
Right.
And Article 8 is a fairly similar, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Article 8 is fairly similar, one of the apportionment of future sewer assessments.
I recommend that we recommend approval as printed.
Second?
Okay.
Move that we recommend approval as printed. Excuse me.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Article 11 deals with electronic voting.
This has been pretty well vetted by several community groups, so I would move that we recommend Article 11 as printed.
And 12, right?
Right, they are.
And 12.
Yeah.
Yep, if we can do them together. let's
Sure.
do-
So
Second.
Article 11 and 12 are
Thank you.
companion articles. All right, motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Article 14 is the North Falmouth Branch Public Library. And this is,
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject in speaking with town council, his suggestion is that this be indefinitely postponed and can be considered in the spring town meeting. There are a number of lingering issues related to it.
and this has to do with the interest of expanding the North Falmouth branch into the park that's up in North Falmouth. And there are some concerns about the potential of an Indian burial ground there. And we do have a new library director who will be coming in.
I'm going to
down
make
the road.
a motion to indefinitely postpone.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Article 15 is the employee classification plan. This is including the position of housing coordinator and the community development director.
I move
Again, don't forget that these are merely putting them in the classification plan. It's a further process down the road to actually fund these positions, but this puts them in the classification plan.
Can I just have some discussion on that? I know there've been a lot of questions about, fleshing out the difference between these two positions. I don't know if the town manager can kind of give just a paragraph on that.
Well, the housing coordinator position would be the point person for all things housing within the town and would conceivably be a staff member in a future community development department. Community development director, of course, would head up all the functions within that potential future department. And the Collins Center analysis, which is just beginning, would help identify alternatives for this board to consider on a future community development department, and that would funnel into a later town meeting for consideration that be created. So as Doug has noted, this just would place the positions in a classification plan, but it would not fund them at all.
Thank you.
And the third piece of that is actually deleting the wastewater, an assistant wastewater manager from our classification plan.
Right.
Mr.
I
Patterson?
think we heard from Paul Nitzweski, the importance of housing now across the entire Cape. And it, the Community Preservation Committee has basically provided us with the funding for the housing coordinator position so they can focus really on that particular area and trying to figure out how we can produce more community housing. And it's not necessarily just affordable housing, but community housing in general that is probably more like middle-class housing, certainly the housing that I started out living in when I started my work years as an adult. So it's that kind of thing. But the funding is there from the Community Preservation Committee for that position. Well, I think we've actually, in our strategic plan, includes the community development director, so I think
For 2 years now.
we've vetted this out, for a couple of years now. So, I feel quite comfortable in recommending approval as printed.
You've actually voted to create these positions already,
Yeah.
so.
Second?
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Article 16, again, an employee classification plan, and this has to do with adding a fleet services manager, and we're deleting the master mechanic.
Motion to approve, oh, sorry.
No, you go right
As
ahead.
printed.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
The only thing I would say, just in support of it, is that, vehicle technology has increased in sophistication significantly over the last 20 years. And this is a very expensive investment that the town has, and we really need to make sure that we have somebody that is capable of managing the maintenance and the life cycle costs of these vehicles much more effectively. And it's probably going to require somebody with an additional level of training.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Article 17, unfortunately, we've had union issues that have declined to support the adjustment we want to make there, and it's the recommendation most appropriate for indefinite postponement.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. On indefinite postponement, Article 21, you can see we have that the Water Quality Management Committee will be making a motion to support this article. This is Article 21 for water quality monitoring. Petitioner's article from Mr. Zweig.
I move that we recommend Article 21 as printed.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Article 22 is the Spring Bars Road remediation. This is dealing with the cost of the tank or potential 2 tanks at Spring Bars Road. We'll have a more definite price, of course, at town meeting at the time.
I recommend that we...
22, that's the asbestos remediation?
Do we have an older?
No, Spring 22 is Article 22.
Spring Bars Road.
Right, but if you
Spring
look
Bars
on,
Road.
maybe this draft has
maybe
been
this is-
updated.
Yeah, well,
Oh, we might have switched some orders.
Okay, okay.
well, it's just,
Right, Doug and I were just looking at an actual draft of the warrant, but maybe it's an old draft.
It's from 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, we might have switched.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, so at least we should confirm that.
Right.
Sure.
So Article 22 is the Spring Bars Road remediation as we've been presented it.
Right.
I move approval. I move that we recommend approval as printed.
Second.
But the recommendation actually is going to end up being a dollar figure, so...
Right.
Finance Committee will carry it,
Right.
correct.
That's understood.
So, we have motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Article 23, again, will be a Finance Committee one, but it'd be good to have our recommendation, and this is the cost of the asbestos remediation at T-Ticket Elementary School.
Do we know yet what that,
Not a final figure, do we?
No, it's still underway,
wow, it's been
The amount
festering for a
is,
long time.
escalating.
Yeah, and so I heard, that's why I'm concerned about it. So shall we just leave it to the Finance Committee then at this point?
Yep.
Rather than us taking a position on it?
Well, I think we should take a position on whether we approve it, but it'll be the dollar figure. The recommendation ends up being Finance Committee with a dollar figure, and I think would be good for us to show our support of going forward with that.
Well, I've certainly have talked with our finance director, and at least with the initial estimate of 300,000, she said she thought we could handle it pretty much out of our reserves or even out of certified free cash. So I would move that we recommend approval as printed.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, the ayes have it. Article 24 is the eminent domain taking of the Cape Cod Baptist Church.
I move, go.
Well, so I was at an exploratory visit there with the Realtor, and I had mentioned at the Veterans Group, I was curious if there was a need, if they have identified a need for a facility for any housing, and there is a huge need, and I've been talking to the Veterans Outreach Center in Hyannis, and also a selectman from Dennis, Dennis is trying to put together a 5-bedroom house right now for
Right.
veterans housing. And it's funny that this property has a 5-bedroom house on the front of it, and it seemed like a real good opportunity for a veterans center. So in that light, I would like to consider it.
For a veterans center or for veterans housing?
Veterans housing, and potentially some sort of veterans center. I mean, we have like almost 6,500 veterans in Falmouth. We don't have a central location for them. They're kind of scattered. They have to have meetings here or there. The military support group has to borrow space. So,
One of the things they've been looking at, the veterans have discussed, is the abandoned senior center site. So they've been looking at trying to see if that could be repurposed.
right.
If I might continue, that with respect to this, I mean, it's something like $1 million just to buy the property, then the rehab, then, and that sort of would be throwing up to maybe a $3 million number at voters when we're looking at all these other expenditures with no planning and no putting it into a capital plan. So that would be my hesitation on that. I think the concept is something that we definitely should look at, but I would just think about it with a little bit more long-term planning and vetting out other possible sites, and because I agree with you, that definitely is a need.
Yeah, it's more like 800,000, and I think it's probably more like $1 million package, but that's just my first initial impression, and I agree, it's certainly a short-term, it's a quick look at it. I just wanted to bring that up, that it's something we want to consider, I think.
I think just as far as this is, I think those are concerns that are, I think, pressing and will be before us. I think as far as this particular draft of this article, I think we can't read into it that use.
No, I'm just
Right,
pointing
yeah,
out.
no, I know, I'm
It
just
brought
to
to my
clarify,
attention.
yeah.
Something I think we should be considering.
Considering, yeah.
You know what, I mean, normally there are additional funding sources for that kind of a project. So I think it's a project unto itself. I think this is just for the senior center, and I think we're of an opinion.
The wording is, and/or could potentially be a veteran's use there.
Okay.
And the property, the building in the back is leased currently to a daycare, child development. I don't know if that's a compatible use, but just something to think about.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
There's certainly a need. There's a lot of veterans that are struggling to get back
I'd be worried about
on
having
track.
this article detract from where we're trying to go forward with the senior center. And if the article didn't include permanent or temporary senior center, I could be more interested in pursuing it, even though I'm a little bit leery about the town picking up more property. But I would hate to have seniors think that we're going to do this as a temporary senior center and then walk away from the other plan saying, well, we're done. We don't have to actually do the next thing. And it worries me about any time we sort of do a piecemeal project that gets them closer to what they want, and then we don't go through it forward with the big
To
project.
complete.
And
I was actually looking at it more as for veteran use than for the senior center, because I'm not sure it would work well without a lot of rehab and reconstruction of the building. I didn't get to go inside, so I can't really say that, but
But I'm sorry, because maybe I'm reading it wrong, but the actual article says for the design
using-
and engineering service for a new senior center.
or for use as a permanent or temporary senior center, or in the alternative, for affordable housing and our accommodations for
Okay.
services to veterans, and further to appropriate sum of money for the purpose.
This is
I could, I could almost think about saying our recommendation could be, we support the article without reference to the senior center. Say, if their words had been taken out, for use for affordable housing and accommodations for services to veterans, I could be more in favor of looking into that. But the fact that it's talking about senior center is what really makes me not as comfortable in supporting it.
Also, for our finance committee, I'm sure that's,
have no numbers.
that haven't, that hasn't even crossed their mind, and
Right.
what they're looking, so I don't think this would be the time to recommend, throw in a new project with a recommendation. So I think I'd make a motion for indefinite postponement.
But I
As
just
is
think
for-
at least it's a good opportunity for a conversation about it.
Yeah,
Yes,
And, I mean,
indeed.
for us to actually purchase a property, we'd have to do, the whole thing we actually went through with the Coonamessett to actually make sure it is something we can purchase, that we can
Right.
validate the purchase, that we have an appraisal, and we just have not had that information.
And to bring in the input from veterans.
veterans, finance,
Finance, yeah.
planning, all of that, housing, a new
But
housing.
I think your point is well taken. It's a conversation that has not been had as much as it needs to be. That's a population that doesn't get the attention, and that need is there.
Right.
So I think it's something that we have to review.
Okay.
So
We
there
have a
was a
motion and a
motion?
second, yeah.
Do we have a motion second for indefinite
I
postponement?
moved.
And I second it for indefinite postponement.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 1. So it's 4-1. Recommendation indefinite postponement. Article 31 is the Falmouth Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Oh. Can I just raise a question?
Yes.
I mean, it really is the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund. That's the special legislation, so there's a nomenclature issue there. It's just the title. But this is the transfer of the $300,000 from CPC funds into the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund.
Right.
And
So
we better check on the article, because the article actually is written as Falmouth Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Okay, well, some clarification needs to be,
And so,
Maybe at
if it
some
needs to be
point.
corrected, then our recommendation would have to be
Include
with that
that
change,
correction.
not as printed.
Right.
okay, yep.
Okay.
Well, you can,
That motion?
yes, I am going to recommend approval with the appropriate change in nomenclature.
Okay.
Second?
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Article 31. Article 35 is to ask the town manager to appoint an independent review committee comprised of a member of the Finance Committee, 2 town meeting members, and 2 Falmouth residents taxpayers to review the effectiveness of the town department consolidation actions. I talked to Mr. Sousa about the recommendation of considering that we recommend this. I think that we've done some great job with the consolidation, and I wouldn't mind having a committee like that, this task force, to say, good job, it's working well. I have no reason to think why we would object to this.
I don't think we should object to it. I think it's not costing us any money, right? I mean, I guess it's allocating some time of volunteers.
Right.
And I think as the situation with the senior center tonight shows, sometimes the more folks you can get involved, they can spread the word of what's going on, or that this is an issue, or that these things are happening. So
Right.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. It doesn't have a financial burden, and it just creates more involvement.
My only concern is to whether it is a permanent committee, a longstanding committee, or whether it should have a termination. I mean, I understand what the goals are, but are those goals specific enough to saying, okay, and that's their job, or is that a committee that's going to exist forever?
So as the appointing authority, we could simply do this without this article.
Right, the article asks the town moderator to appoint this committee.
Right, we could still just do it, at the next meeting even. There seems to be agreement in the in the goal, but and then you could determine the parameters, and, it would function more like a typical committee.
I speak to it? I mean, I think that the petitioner, though, is really looking for some more objective evaluation or audit of the process. And I'm not sure our involvement by appointing the committee, selecting the members and what have you, is going to satisfy their concerns. I throw that out because I suspect that's part of their motivation for this.
I think this article would still come forward, no matter what if we create another committee, this article will still be on town meeting and will, I think, still have a sufficient group saying, yeah, it's the right thing to do, so.
I think leaving it, supporting it as it's drafted, and our moderator he may look to the board for some guidance on how long this, I do think it's a missing component that there isn't a time period.
Right.
The parameters of what they're reviewing is narrow, but it's just sort of an indefinite body that exists forever. I don't know that, I think there needs to be some clarification on that, but perhaps that's something that's clarified on the town meeting floor.
I think there's also interpretation that clarifies this thing, to review the effectiveness of the town department consolidations taken since fiscal year 2011. So it's from 2011 to present. And certainly that's the way I would interpret it. And
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll move, or I'll recommend, as printed, I guess, right?
Yep.
Is this Article 35?
Yep.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The ayes have it.
36 is
And Article 36, the petitioner has asked it to be withdrawn, so recommendation would be definite postponement.
Yep, I move that we recommend indefinite postponement at the request of the petitioner.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The ayes have it. Individual selectmen's reports.
I just had a couple of things.
Okay?
Number one, I want to thank Michael Osso from the Falmouth EDIC for presenting to the Cape and Island Selectmen some ideas for the Cape's long-term sustainability through economic development projects such as the train station, which will be having a ribbon-cutting ceremony over the next 2 weeks. I forget the exact date.
Sorry, what?
I'm sorry, Selectman Moran, hold on. I don't think it
not on our
was.
agenda.
It wasn't on our agenda.
Oh, wow. You guys were waiting all night?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda, I don't know.
It's not on there, sorry. Oh, and the second thing is just a mention of the Charter Review Committee that our clerk was running with a bunch of, sort of a room full at the library. And it was determined that, there was a lot of helpful discussion, review about the
Walter,
process. And I just thought that was a great idea that Barbara had to look into charter
sorry,
review.
I didn't hear the beginning of that.
Oh, sure. So there was a charter review process that our clerk had participated in along with Barbara, and I'm blanking. Schneider, thank
Dr.
you.
Schneider.
And I attended one of the sessions, a room full at the library, and after a couple of sessions, it was determined that most people felt that the review was positive and that the current form of government is probably best for Falmouth. So I appreciate all the volunteers that participated in that.
I did go to the first one, and that was the consensus then.
Yep.
Just,
Mr. Patterson?
just quickly, I mentioned it earlier, but I did participate in the town management's review of a draft of the Falmouth Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. It was prepared by Elise Leduc of the Woods Hole Group, and I think it's really close. It's really a matter of some final technical editing and some input from some of the town departments, but it was a group of all of the department heads, and so that everybody had a chance to put their 2 cents in and their suggestions in. CPC's moving forward on their project applications, which will be coming up at the April town meeting. So I attended one of their meetings. Let's see. And I wanted to second Sue's comment about the meeting of the Cape Cod Selectmen and Counselors Association meeting. I thought it was very, good conversation with Michael Galasso, but I also want to give credit to Jay Colburn, who is the Executive Director for the Community Development Partnership in the Lower Cape. I was pretty impressed with what they've accomplished, and I think it's a model that really our EDIC ought to take seriously, because when you look at what they've done, 140 Cape Codders living in affordable housing, including 30 children, 240 small businesses received one business technical assistance, 49 graduates of a first-time home buyer education program, 70 jobs created or retained, and then a $5,300,000 in gross sales generated by local fishermen participating in the Cape Cod Fisheries Trust. And then they go on to talk about 178,000, loan to 6 local businesses as sort of business development grants and loans, loans really. 42 homes rehabbed for approximately $1,200,000, and then 174 small businesses participated in business education courses that they offer. It's a pretty impressive track record over the last 3 or 4 years, and the presentation was certainly convincing to me that we really ought to be looking at that kind of a support system for our own business development, our own business community. One of the things that was mentioned is that oftentimes small business people really don't have a good business plan that they develop ahead of time, and the statistics are kind of poor for success of small businesses. It's only like 1 out of 4 and 1 out of 5, and it's because they don't have that support to really start off on the strongest footing and keep their businesses going properly. So that was part of that presentation.
Did you hear the question I asked Jay? What's your budget?
Yeah.
The EDIC's budget is teeny.
Right.
Jay's budget is multi-million.
Exactly.
Right.
But shouldn't we be aspiring to that?
Absolutely. We have a great solar project going on.
So, but anyway, I just pointed it out because I think it's a model we should be looking at.
Yep.
Well, we should, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no,
I was just going to say, we should consider that when they're looking for funding for administrative
I
services.
think you got that point.
Yep. I, on your behalf, attended Jim Toner's Eagle Court of Honor on Saturday, which is always fun. And then on Sunday, I actually served as a water boy for the Walk for the Cure of Breast Cancer. It's a program of the American Cancer Society. And it was, when I tuned into the Patriots game, it was so neat to see all those pink ribbons on all the helmets and the pink gloves and what have you. Obviously, the Crafts have been great supporters of the American Cancer Society and the whole efforts to try to find cures for breast cancer. So it was a pleasant week.
Nice.
Anyone else?
I attended the Waterways Committee this past week, and it's a good group. They're very thoughtful. They gave a report on White Landing repairs. It's going to be done in November. R. Bates and Sons will be the contractor for that.
This November?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So that's good, because
Long time coming.
a lot of people weren't happy with that. They're adjusting their rates, moving up very slightly. They don't want to alarm anyone, but, there's inevitable increases. It's been a few years since they've had an increase. Their charter fees are catching up to the residential fees. They had initially a program where they gave really low-cost slip rates to charters to develop a little charter business here, and now they're kind of catching those rates back up.
Just to be clear, both the beach rates and those rates that have been voted by the committees are votes as recommendations that come back to us.
Right.
And then we have to approve them for them actually to occur.
Right. So they also reported that Caleb's Pond fish ladder is underway, which is, I guess, working out well.
Excellent.
And the bulkhead's going to be repaired at the end of Falmouth Inner Harbor. I'm sure you're aware of that, but just a reminder that that's underway. And not underway, but I mean in the working stages. And Wild Harbor dredging is going to be coming up soon. There's about 8,000 cubic yards, and they're recommending that it should be barged out. So
Great.
that's the gist of it.
Anything else?
You and I attended the affordable housing, the
yes.
annual meeting, right?
Yep.
And,
I think almost
Okay.
everybody.
Sorry, Megan.
No, go ahead. I was just.
Yeah. No, that was the
I
end.
only got to stay for a little while because I had my
Falmouth
one-year-old.
Housing Trust?
Falmouth Housing
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah,
Trust.
but it was
Falmouth
really,
Housing Trust.
Falmouth Housing Trust, but really wonderful event, very well attended. I think that's, really an indication of the support that this community has, and a number of different groups from this community have for the work that they're doing, and particularly just the large project at Oddfellows that they've taken on and really made significant progress in the last year on. So it was a great event, and I think really well attended and enjoyed by all.
And aren't we close to within a month of ribbon cutting there?
I think so.
Getting there.
And I was really impressed by the young lady who spoke, who had previously stayed at the Flynn House, and how she had made a point of what an impact that had on her when she was in a transitional stage, and now she's out there working hard and paying taxes and doing great, so that's another good point for them.
It is great.
Town manager's report?
In writing, Mr. Chairman, nothing further to add. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.